So thank you all again for being here. Tremendous showing of everyone who's here from near and far away. And I am going to invite our alum and representative from the Armenian Bar Association, Lucy Varpetian, to start off the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Anahit. Good morning, everyone. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you today. I wanted to start by sharing with you that last week I attended the Japanese American Bar Association Gala that was honoring Justice Sotomayor of the United States Supreme Court. I attended to be supportive of JABA's mission, but also in the hopes of getting a better sense of what was happening with the Supreme Court today. Justice Sotomayor was truly, truly inspirational. I took away a few things from that evening. The first, what she said was, read the entire opinion of the Supreme Court decision. Don't just take away the headlines. You're seeing today headlines about how what the Supreme Court said about some of the president's policy decisions. She encouraged us to read the full opinion, not just the articles about it, not just the titles of the articles, so that you truly understand what the Supreme Court was saying, and not just the ruling, which becomes law, but also the opposing viewpoints. She said she writes deliberately to connect with you specifically. She said that. She said she writes in a way so that we all in the United States can understand where she was coming from when she's in the dissent. The other thing that she said, which I took to heart, was that get involved. She said, you're not going to solve world problems. And I'm not going to lie. I went in there hoping that the Supreme Court fixes everything. I looked to them to say, well, can't you fix this? No, they can't fix it. She said, this is the hardest job she's ever had. She didn't know how hard it would be. But she said we each can play a role in what is happening. Don't take on solving world problems. You don't have to do that. That's not your job. But find something you're passionate about and do that. Just do that. Well, when she said that, I said, well, I've been involved with the Armenian Bar Association since I was a student at Southwestern. So I have been getting involved, and my engagement with the bar allows me to collaborate with Dean Garahanyan in Southwestern Law School. I'm very grateful that we continue to maintain this partnership and to bring a program like this to prospective students. The Armenian Bar allows me to help stay on local issues. For example, the bar commented recently on a matter that involved a public official. Dr. Oz came to Los Angeles, and in his official capacity, he made some very hateful and discriminatory comments against an entire community. Well, my engagement with the Armenian Bar allowed me to partner with city departments, engage with other professionals to develop a mechanism by which to comment and be involved. So I feel like I'm being able to give back by being involved in a bar association. My day job, I am a city attorney with the city of Glendale. I've been there for almost 25 years. I believe in working within government. I would encourage all of you to seek a government position at all different stages of your legal journey. If you're already committed to a certain practice area, look around and you will find an internship opportunity while you're in school so that you could work within government to advance that purpose, even if you've already made up your mind that you're going to work in private practice. So I hope to see some of you during the breakout sessions I wish you well in your law school career. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucy. I believe I'm next. So it was really great. I ended up just a quick comment on Lucy's attendance, Judge Sotomayor's recent appearance. I was lucky enough to go to the one at Occidental College, and that one was also with the chief judge from the Ninth Circuit, Magira, I think, or Margia, and the California Supreme Court Justice Guerrera, and a lot of what Lucy mentioned, they sort of reiterated in terms of just best practices on approaching life, approaching your practice. But I understand my role is to answer three general questions. One is, your area of practice and what you like about it. How have you gone about building your legal career and getting to your current position? And advice and tips for getting the most out of your legal education and preparing for the profession. I guess in terms of highlights, I was lucky enough to serve close to 30 years with the federal government. I spent about 25 of those with the Department of Justice, and some of the highlights was working as an assistant U.S. attorney in Los Angeles, working as a trial attorney in D.C., doing circuit court litigation, working as an immigration judge for 15 years, and sort of like really taking on the Department of Justice's sort of commitment to justice in terms of public service, in terms of just sort of, we used to always say it was such a proud moment when you appeared in court to talk about appearing on behalf of the United States. So those were some of the best times. And I spent 4 years at Department of Homeland Security in the previous administration, leading their legal department as the head of the legal program with the agency, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. So, but with the change of administration, I pivoted out. I retired from the federal government, and I was fortunate enough to, just a couple months ago, be appointed to the Los Angeles County Superior Court bench. And that has, it has been an amazing, I already sort of feel like how lucky I am to be in this new environment with this new ecosystem of people that are there's such a shared value in terms of this access to justice and the mission to justice and fairness for people who appear before us. So that's something that's always been near and dear to my heart. In terms of like, how have you gone about building your legal career? I should say, I've been assigned, I'm in collections now. I'm doing civil, civil cases, collections. It's one of the, highest volume. One side is almost always never represented by counsel. In many ways, it reminds me of my time as an immigration judge, where it was high volume and a lot of unrepresented or pro se litigants. So that's what I deal with. I used to talk about having 3,000 cases on my docket. I now have 27,000 cases on my docket. So every day is about 80 to 100 cases scheduled, and you're just trying to make sure that you move them all in the right direction. And I'm happy to talk about it in the breakout session. How have I gone about building my legal career and getting to sort of my current position? I think the assumption is, of course, you're going to have to work hard, right? Like, there's no downside to it. You need to put in the effort. You need to work hard. You need to like master whatever area you're going to go to. But I think this question calls about more. From my perspective, what I have always found is that you want to take on the areas that you care about, because when you're happy, happiness leads to success. Success doesn't lead to happiness. And that's something that's been proven to me over and over again. And so I go towards areas that really bring me a sense of purpose and a sense of a meaning. And because of that, I find myself wanting to volunteer and wanting to meet people. And inevitably, when I volunteer for whatever comes up, whatever needs help, I'll try to volunteer for. Inevitably, those kinds of opportunities open doors that you would have never imagined. And that's sort of like, again, maybe in the breakout session, I can give you examples of how just volunteering for one or the other introduced me to people in the network, and that led to more. And then in terms of advice and tips for getting the most out of your legal education and preparing for the profession, one of the justice, I think it was the Ninth Circuit Chief Judge from the Ninth Circuit, Margia, mentioned, and I felt like it captured what I have been feeling sort of all my life, which is, she said it's better to lead by a compass than by a watch. And I took that to mean that it's always important to just know what your North Star is. Like, you have to have that North Star. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the integrity? What is your value system? It's that sort of the mushy part of it, in terms of like just knowing who you are. What is it you stand for? What is it that you want to accomplish? Like, what's that North Star? And when you have that down, the rest of it falls into place. It no longer is about, I got to check this, I got to check that. And I'll give an example. Like in law school, if you don't know what your North Star is, there are certain sort of paths that are sort of encouraged, or sort of celebrated, and or and they're also supporting. For example, on-campus interviews is something that a lot of schools try to do, understandably, to help students connect with the private sector law firms, particularly sort of those high status law firms who can afford to sort of come on campus and do recruiting. And so there is always this feeling of, you got to do this, and this is sort of the gold ring. But very early on, I knew that I wanted to do public service and that this wasn't for me. So that was very helpful in guiding me, so that when there's all this thing coming at you and telling you, this is the definition of success, this is the definition, that you are the one who's rooted in what your values are and what you want to do. When you do that, then the rest of it is so much clearer for you in knowing what you want to do. And I hope I didn't take too much time. And I really, really am honored to have been invited to join this group this year, and hope to help as much as I can.
All right, I think I'm next. Good morning, everyone. It's very nice to be here, and thank you, Anahit, for inviting me. My name is Arpa Abrahamian. I am an administrative law judge with Department of Social Services. I do hear appeals involving in-home supportive services. Basically, what in-home supportive services is that individuals in California who are disabled, it could be elderly people, children, adults, whether it's physical disability or cognitive impairment, they apply for services. The goal is to make sure that these individuals are able to safely remain at their home rather than facing out-of-home placement due to their disability. So, for example, if they don't have the financial ability to pay to a caregiver, if nobody is there to take care of them because of employment reasons, then they can apply for services, and the state will provide the money or the hours so that they can get the help they need. So the county will evaluate them to see how many hours they need, in what categories they need services, and as a result, they will issue what's called a notice of action. The individual will receive the notice of action. If they disagree with the county's action, then they will appeal that notice of action. And that's where the judges in my unit come in and hear those appeals. Our cases we have a lot of hearings. We don't make decisions right after the hearing. We have to write our decision explaining the reasoning behind our decision. So what I really like about my job, which I do every day, is making sure that the decision that I write can be read by anyone. Most of the individuals that appear before me are not represented. they're elderly, they're family members of disabled individuals who represent their father, their mother, their child. So I have to make sure when they get the decision, they understand why I made the decision I did. Um, Also, I really like to understand, hear the stories, what people have to say. Sometimes the hearings can get very heated. The county representatives and the claimant or the authorized representative for the claimant will get into an argument on the record. My job is to make sure to control the hearing and also conduct a hearing that is efficient. I have 2 hours to complete the hearing. Sometimes the hearing can be continued to a different date, but the goal is to conclude the hearing within 2 hours. So efficiency for me is very, very important. Um, so those are the type of things that I really like about my job. I really like to interact with people, hearing their stories, making sure I write a decision that can be understood by both parties, resolving conflicts. I hear two different stories. The county tells me something different. The claimant tells me something different. I have to figure out what is the truth, to resolve that conflict. Um, Before my job as an administrative law judge, I was a public defender. For about 15 years, I was a public defender in three different counties, in Madera County and Bakersfield, and also LA County with Alternate Public Defender's Office. And I really, really enjoyed my job as a public defender. And I feel that work really helped me for what I do now. Um, it gave me the skills to listen to people, to understand where they come from, representing people with, different backgrounds, with different family history. Most of my clients had mental health concerns that it was difficult for them to communicate. So finding a way to be able to speak to individuals and getting their story and being able to represent their story in court. Also, it gave me the skills to trial skills. How do I conduct a trial? How do I ask questions, direct examinations, cross examinations? How to interact with opposing counsel? How to interact with the judge? How to advocate for my client? And all of that really helped me with this position that I have now. With the exception of, I'm not an advocate, so that was uh, that was something that I found challenging in the beginning because I'm not advocating for a person. I have to be impartial decision maker, so keep an open mind, listen to both sides, and ultimately decide what the outcome should be. Um, the advice that I would give to law students, like Ashley said, Lucy said, I think um, getting involved. Don't wait until you're an attorney to get involved in bar associations, to make those connections, to interact with other lawyers, people from different legal backgrounds. Um, when you make those connections early on and start networking early on, I feel you have a better idea of what's out there, different legal fields out there, something that may be interesting for you, something that maybe you didn't know about. In addition to, when it comes time for you to do internships, to look for employment, those connections that you have made during law school, I think is going to be very, very helpful in the future. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is John Serenian. I'm the Paul W. Wildman Chair and Professor of Law here at Southwestern. I'm delighted to be here today. It's really great to be part of this program. I have participated for many years and want to thank Anahid and Nancy for all the hard work in putting this together. It's actually great to see the geographical diversity. I saw someone was from Hawaii. That's my home state. So great to have a little Hawaiian representation in here as well. I'm looking forward to meeting with everybody in the breakout rooms, the kind of two areas that I can really speak about. On one hand, are people who are interested in potentially an academic career, professorial route, since obviously that's what I do. And just in terms of my areas, I teach constitutional law and I also teach entertainment and intellectual property law. So that's copyrights, patents, trademarks, right of publicity. But the other side of my life is I'm also the founding partner of One LLP, which is an entertainment and intellectual property firm. And so I'm happy to talk to people who are interested in potentially starting their own firm, since I have some experience with that. Also, people who are very much interested in doing the entertainment law route. Just by way of my own background, I grew up in Hawaii, went to the East Coast for college and law school, and then ended up in California and started out doing big law. Working at a big firm for a few years, and then at that point went the academic route, but also started my own firm about 25 years ago. So, I'm happy to talk about kind of some of the challenges of starting a firm, but also some of the challenges of breaking into entertainment law. Entertainment is a really, really fun field. It's something that I'm very passionate about and love. And oftentimes I get fielded questions, how do you get into entertainment law? Since a lot of people want to go that route. And I think the best advice I can give to people, and I'm happy to talk about this more in the breakout rooms, is that just saying you want to do entertainment law is usually not sufficient. A lot of people say that. But what's really important is getting a core skill and becoming a subject matter expert in an area of interest to the entertainment industry, or area of importance. So for me, that was intellectual property. My route towards the entertainment industry started out in a weird way. I actually started out as a patent litigator, representing high-tech companies in patent litigation. But that gave me a beginnings of an experience in intellectual property, and I developed my expertise and also developed expertise in copyright and trademark. And copyright really is the bread and butter of the entertainment industry. It protects, obviously, the underlying content that the publishing industry, the movie industry, the music industry, the video game industry, fashion industry, all of their creations come under copyright law as well as trademark law. And so I slowly started getting questions from clients in the copyright and trademark space. Those clients turned out to be people in the entertainment industry. And over time, I became an entertainment lawyer. And now I never do patent work at all, in part because I really enjoyed the entertainment work. I enjoyed the clients. And for me, there's a lot of meaning and kind of intellectual interest that comes in the type of work I do in entertainment, because it's really at the interface of technology on one hand and creativity on the other hand, and how the law kind of merges the two and balances competing values between owners, users of copyrighted works or intellectual property, and the general public. And there's also even a constitutional law kind of overlay to all of it, because a lot of it deals with free speech as well. So that's very exciting to me. So in terms of breaking into the entertainment industry, I think that's a really, that's the most helpful thing, is getting subject matter expertise. It doesn't necessarily need to be an intellectual property, though. It could be, for example, you become an expert on labor law, and maybe you work for plumbing unions or electrician unions. That ends up being really important in the entertainment industry, because so much of the entertainment industry operates on the basis of collective bargaining and the guild agreements with SAG-AFTRA, with the Writers Guild, et cetera. And so that expertise can be important. Or maybe it's you get expertise in contracts or in negotiations, or in tax credits, which is, again, very important to entertainment financing. So there are multiple routes. And I think that's important to emphasize. The other thing that's sort of interesting about entertainment is that the things that you do outside of the law, I think, can be very beneficial. I'll give you an example. I had a student years ago. He didn't go to college until his early 30s, didn't go to law school until his late 30s. Why? Because he was a professional rock climber. And when he got out of law school, all of his extreme sports friends started asking him legal questions, and he hung up his own shingle and ended up becoming an entertainment lawyer, really representing extreme sports athletes in their endorsement deals and things like that. And that's just one small example of how a background in an area that's seemingly nothing to do with the law, rock climbing, can really help you. And for me, my own personal interests in art, in music, in literature, and film, all of that's actually been incredibly helpful in terms of developing my entertainment career because I feel like it gives me a passion and a background in the actual subject matter of the types of things my clients do that I think helps in terms of relatability and in terms of understanding their goals, their mission. It's a lot of fun. I represent people in, film and TV and in music, in video games, in fashion, in publishing. And the issues are rich and dynamic and great. So I'm very, very happy to talk about that. I'd also just kind of give people the advice of also trying to volunteer, trying to get pro bono experience. It's not only good in terms of helping out the community and people that maybe can't afford counsel, but in my own legal career, I got some incredible experiences by simply volunteering and showing up. And early on, was able to take on assignments that maybe I wouldn't have been if it was a paying client. So, for example, my first year as a lawyer, I was able to argue a pro bono appeal in front of the Ninth Circuit and get a published decision. That was incredible and really fun. And it certainly wouldn't have happened if it was a paying client because, that would have gone to a senior partner. So reach out for those opportunities, network, that's particularly important in entertainment, and open yourself up to taking advantage of all the opportunities. So anyway, I'm looking forward to chatting with everyone in the breakout sessions. And if you have an interest in entertainment, in intellectual property, and starting your own firm, and maybe going an academic route, come and say hi.
Good morning, everybody. I guess I'm next. My name's Ali Bulor. My area of practice is immigration law, and that's what I've been doing for 30 years on kind of both ends of things, sort of, kind of business and family practitioners. Um, I want to follow up on what Professor Tehranian said because I actually entered law school wanting to become an entertainment lawyer. I had no idea what that meant. I just liked the sound of it. And I went to the evening program. So I had 4 years. I had the privilege of time to volunteer and to extern at different places. And I remember I externed for Warner Brothers, Warner Chapel Music. Then the next semester I externed for New Line Cinema at the time, and I just was bored. I could not get. I had no idea what I was doing there. Then again, you volunteer and you extern and you intern as much as you can because you want to be exposed to as many areas of law while you're going to law school. And that's what I did. And one summer I externed at this, I don't think it's there anymore, but AIDS Service Center. And they were providing services. It was a nonprofit associated with a church in Pasadena, and they were providing services to their people, and they had all kinds of needs, family law, perhaps, criminal law, certainly immigration law. So I worked under two attorneys that practiced immigration law, and I was in that unit. And what I saw that summer is really the North Star that Judge Salvador kind of mentioned. I found it, and it was immigration law because I saw how I could help people in this area. So then I took immigration law classes, and then I kind of knew. I mean, by the time I graduated, I knew I was going to be an immigration lawyer. I also had the really honest privilege of having amazing instructors at Southwestern. One of my instructors is still practicing. He is a fearless advocate on the detention side. Another professor is a fantastic business immigration lawyer. Another professor went on and became an immigration judge. So I had good instructors, and I loved what I saw within immigration field, and that's what I chose to do. So I graduated, and then then you need to make money and pay off those loans. So that's a little bit difficult. But again, if you love what I do, what you do, it becomes somewhat easier. But then as a solo practitioner, you need to develop business, obviously, if not working for the government or nonprofit. So the whole skill of networking while in law school, meeting people, meeting attorneys, meeting professors, having a mentor and just having a community within law students becomes really helpful because that's how you get your initial clients. My community was the gay community, and for the first few years, that's who I served. A lot of pro bono work, a lot of low bono work, and my name kind of got around. And after a while, it kind of worked out for me. And then I needed help, and I started hiring law students as law clerks. Two of those law students that I hired, one of them is now my law partner. He unfortunately went to Loyola. Uh, the other one is a Southwestern graduate. So again, and all of it comes from networking. All of it comes from loving what you do and really giving it enough time for it to grow. So I've been fortunate as far as all of those things. But I do want to talk about how important it is that you really love what you do and not do it for money. When I wanted to do entertainment law, my goal, my North Star was money. And quickly realized I'm never going to grab that money because I'm hating it. Immigration, when people talk about immigration, people seem to think about nonprofits, about, doing free labor, which, it's fine, but it doesn't have to be that way. You define your practice, and again, you have to love it. And so if you think about it, when I started about 30 years ago, the world was a different place. In the environment, in the political environment that we live in today, by the way, if you see an immigration attorney, hug him or her because they need it. But those of us that are still around and kicking, I mean, we would not last without each other. We would not last without just a sense of community that we have. And most importantly, we would not last without our clients. I mean, obviously, with many in the immigration law, the North Star is human rights, human dignity, etc. And to think of what we have to deal with today, it's incredible. And I want to share just a real quick story, and then I'll sign off talking. But it's really easy to be demoralized. It's really easy to become really somewhat jaded in today's environment. And I know my colleagues go through that cycle, especially these days, because every day there's a new rule, every day there's a new exclusion, every day there's somewhat of a bad news within our practice. So you wonder, why am I doing this? I could be cooking dog food and I'd be happier, right? Until you get a client that hires you, and then you realize all of a sudden this tsunami of emotion takes over you, and you realize why you do what you do. And 2 days ago, I consulted with a client, and she hired me. She's a citizen of Kuwait, and she's been just horribly treated by her government. Just terrible, terrible setup. And it's something that I've done before for other, actually women applicants. And I can't tell you how satisfied I feel when I know I can possibly change somebody's life for the better. And the promise I made this client, now she is my client, I go, if you hire me, I will do a bang up job. I'm sure of it. I can't guarantee you success, but I know I will do everything that I can because you're the reason I'm sitting in this chair. You are the reason that I'm an attorney, that I'm an immigration attorney, because you would give me hope that what I'm doing is not useless. This is particularly applicable in today's kind of environment. So what you do is really important that you love it, because you may end up in a situation like immigration attorneys find themselves today. And without that love of practice, you just wouldn't survive. You just would not, because it's just so demoralizing. So, thank you so much for for listening to me, Professor Tehranian. I'm sorry I stepped all over entertainment law. That's just my experience. And yeah, fantastic. Southwestern is a great school. Join, and I'm done.
Hi all, Alex Gregorians here. Ali, that was, it's a tough act to follow over there. Mine will not be nearly as engaging, but first thanks, Vice Dean Garhanian, for inviting me. This is my second year doing this. And, just the level set here, anecdotally, I wish I would have participated in something like this before I started law school, because it gives, it's such a good perspective on what to expect from actual practitioners. So, to all those who dialed in, bravo to you, because you're probably a step ahead, if you will, than all the other folks who don't get that perspective. And for me, and I'll bring this back, my practice is all about perspective. Where I start and where I ended up are two different things, and I'll quickly guide you through that. But I practice in real estate and real estate finance at Hanson Bridget, which is a California firm with about 200 lawyers. But my path was, and I'll give you a brief overview of that. It wasn't straight and narrow. I'm an '04 alum from Southwestern. I had a terrific experience, which gave me the perspective to end up where I am today, and who knows where I'll be later. But I started out at a small litigation shop, about 40 lawyers. I did defense and plaintiff work, and I actually loved it. It gave me, again, a good perspective on what to expect on a day-to-day, just a daily practice. And I soon realized that litigation just wasn't for me. And bless everyone on this call who can do it. It wasn't for me. But I got that experience. I got to do it. Then I went to another firm, slightly larger, and another law firm, slightly larger. I was at a 1,000-person firm, and I knew I didn't love it for a lot of reasons. And again, and I'll bring this back, but Southwestern kind of prepared me for those changes and how to get my perspective oriented through their programs. But after that, I went to like a 10-person firm, and now we're about 200, and it's a great fit for me. At my time at Southwestern, I participated in student government. I got involved in groups. I did externships. The school gave me great opportunities to do externships. Ali, even in entertainment law, I did one of those, and it was wonderful. I got to be an extern for a judge that the school had very close ties with, and he really mentored me and helped me and gave me that perspective. He told me to go into litigation, actually. So, and ultimately, when you practice, you're running your own business generally. Whatever it is, you're doing something that you hopefully enjoy, and you're running your own business and a practice. And many of you, after you go to law school, and I know a lot of the panelists here are mentors. They enjoy what they do, and they like the folks that they work with, or they know to enjoy it too. And that, again, bringing it back to perspective, if you have that right perspective, and you all probably do as prospective students, you'll do a lot better. So, my advice and tips, really, some of them have been covered, so I'll try not to repeat them, but take advantage of this time as you prepare for law school. And when you're in law school, take advantage of all the programs. This is over and above reading every case, being engaged in class, really understanding what it means to think like a lawyer, particularly these days. Take advantage of externships, on-campus interviews. Southwestern provides a very good kind of framework for students to do that. Get involved, as many panelists said, in local and kind of pro bono, in which again Southwestern got me involved with a pro bono client, or which is now a pro bono client of mine called BetZedek. I still do work for them after 22 years. So it's a it's a great setup that gives you again perspective on how you want to conduct your practice. Get to know your professors. Weisstein Garhanyan was my legal writing professor 25 years ago or something. And also get to know your colleagues. Your fellow students are going to be colleagues one day, and you'd be surprised what a great network you can build with just your class or your section. I still communicate with the folks in my class who sat next to me or were a year above or below me daily. And more so, and as I close here, I would say even more now in the AI age, anyone can find the answer somehow, but folks need lawyers to actually think like a lawyer, analyze things, and come out with solutions that are sensical. So my biggest tip on how to approach law school is really just learn how to think and problem solve. Again, thank you for having me. I'll be in the breakout room if anyone has any questions, and I'll pass it off.
I believe I'm next. Hi, everyone. I'm Arman Avagian, and I am a full-time faculty member at Southwestern. I am a professor of academic success and bar prep. Prior to joining academia full-time, I practiced all facets of complex civil litigation, focusing on representing healthcare practitioners and groups involving medical malpractice. While a student at Southwestern, and I'm a proud alum, I served as an executive board member and managing editor for Southwestern's Journal of International Law. I worked as a legal writing teaching assistant for Professor DeJarfis, and as a research assistant for Vice Deans Anahit Harakanyan and Natalie Rodriguez, in supporting their wonderful research and publication on inclusive law school admission practices. I also worked at the admissions office as an admissions file reviewer and served on the Street Law Clinic and was also a board member of Armenia Law Students Association. While at Southwestern, I took networking very seriously. It was one of my main goals coming into law school. I built close relationships with my professors and mentors. These relationships opened many doors for me, from my entry into the practice of law to my entry into academia. And I remember that during 1L, I studied in the library in the same spot nearly every day, just because I was still getting used to how to study as a 1L. I studied in that same spot so much that I eventually became friends with upperclassmen who studied around me. One of those people was a student named Ara Alakanian. I was a 1L, and Ara at the time was a 2L. He was one of the first students I ever interacted with at Southwestern. He became my mentor and my friend. Aura and other students I had studied with the same spot in the library so often. We sat in the same spots that the carpeting eventually under the seats started to wear out. Until today, when I walk by that spot, those marks are still there, and it makes a great story anytime we see it. Fast forwarding 2 years later, after 1L, Aura had graduated and I was a 3L. I didn't know at that time what I wanted to do with my law license yet. I didn't know what type of law I wanted to practice, and this was being a 3L. Out of the blue, during my last year in law school, Ara reached out to me. He asked if I wanted to work as a law clerk at a medical malpractice defense firm, Crone Israels and Stark in Santa Monica. And Ara was working as a post-bar clerk at that time, so he had already taken the bar. He was waiting for his results in November. So although I had never really stepped foot in a law firm at that time, I did extern at the DA's office, but I've never really interacted with working with like under an actual partner at a private firm. It was nerve-wracking coming from zero experience working in a law firm. And as you can imagine, I was not only nervous, but I had no idea what to expect in medical malpractice law. So I had no idea what it entailed, never took medical malpractice at Southwestern, but I accepted the invitation. I worked with Southwestern's brilliant externship office to organize this position to count towards my experiential units requirement. And long story short, this is what opened one major door in my life, leading me to become a civil litigator in medical malpractice defense. One fun fact about this experience was that the owner and managing partner of the firm, Edward Stark, is an adjunct at Southwestern who teaches the medical malpractice course. Mr. Stark, he has such a great sense of humor and always teased me and joked with me about the fact that I never took his class, but I was working in his defense firm. Mr. Stark is also a graduate of Southwestern, and I could go on for hours about his capacity as my mentor and what opportunities he gave me. After growing at Crone Israels and Stark from being a law clerk to a post-bar clerk and eventually an attorney, I wanted to expand my horizon. I was a young attorney and I was looking for additional opportunities. And I also wanted to cut my commute to Santa Monica. So I moved to Woods Smith Henning Bourbon while I continued medical malpractice defense, working solely on representing Kaiser Permanente. So unbeknownst to me, working at Woods Smith, the partner and attorneys that I worked with were also Southwestern grads. So I continued that close tie with my law school throughout, the first firm I worked at and then the second firm I worked at. Today, I have a full circle moment. I am being with Southwestern full time, continuing to work with the admissions office through committee service. Alex touched on this before me, and he said it beautifully. My one advice to you is to take your legal education seriously, not only performing well in classes, that's expected. It's expected for you to memorize the rules, participate in class, go to office hours, but make time and effort to network with your professors, teaching assistants, dean's fellows, and classmates. Maintain the academic integrity that you should have in law school. Network intentionally, set professional boundaries, and develop concise communication skills. Accept feedback in law school gracefully. Accept feedback in your externships. Be diligent and reliable to your professors and classmates, and most importantly, your future clients. Your clients are what really matters when you're practicing law. If anyone has any questions about success in law school or networking opportunities, or is interested in medical malpractice law, not just defense, also plaintiff's work, feel free to join me in my breakout room.
Thank you. Sam, are you ready?
I am, and I guess I wasn't clear. I thought Sally was before me, but is that someone who was not here
That's right. That's
today?
right.
Okay, thank you for that. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. Sam Abrahamyan, Southwestern grad as well, but a very, very long time ago. I was one of those, I think, fortunate enough where I knew from an early age, I think even in high school, that I wanted to practice criminal law and I wanted to be a trial attorney. So during school, that was my focus, and fortunate enough to do an internship with the public defender's office my first year summer, and got to see the inside of a courtroom. Had some experience through different opportunities to be inside of a courtroom, but that internship that summer, it wasn't just TV law anymore and whatever shows were out there. It was actual seeing defense attorneys, prosecutors in court. And I knew again at that point, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a trial lawyer, and specifically with the public defender's office. So upon graduation, I was lucky enough, my first job was with the public defender's office. A few years later, I moved over to the alternate public defender's office, which is where I am currently. Same kind of work, which is the court appointed attorneys that represent clients from, you name it, A to Z. So which means in my practice, I started representing criminal defendants at your most basic of misdemeanor, low-level cases, at traffic court, DUIs and hit and runs and so forth. And then throughout my career, was able to then, with that experience, move up the ranks sort of and reach a point where it was your highest level criminal filings, meaning death penalty cases, murder cases, and so on. I wanted to do that. I wanted to represent people in that arena, and specifically on the defense side. The type of cases some of the speakers have already mentioned about having that connection with your clients, the respect towards your clients, the respect towards the job. It's exactly what I wanted to do. The thrill of being in a courtroom and practicing. I'm not a paper guy. I'll be the first to tell somebody it's not my area of expertise at all. I'm a guy in court, and that's what I liked doing. So it was that thrill of being in a trial that attracted me first to the profession and law school, and then ultimately as a career. 20, what, 8, almost 9 years now later, I'm still with the office, and it's still a joy. I don't get to practice in court as much as I moved on to more of a supervisory position, so I get to have others under me that I supervise and help out with court. But my times in court, and I did it for a very long time with multiple trials, it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in court every single day. So criminal law is something that if you want to do it, you have a desire for it usually. Most of the time, people don't, hey, I'll try it and I'll see what happens. And it could be either from the prosecution side or the defense side. It's something inside of you that you want to do. We have a very robust internship program we've had for a few years and a good relationship with Southwestern. So we get the 2Ls and that come to our office, have an opportunity to work with the lawyers, hands-on with the clients, even be in court. And it gives you that true sense of what it is to be in court and to be a trial attorney. And it opens up that desire for a lot of people that say, hey, this is what I want to do as a career. Everyone has a different, I think, desire, and Ali and others mentioned it. You need to love what you do because it's a hard job. Doesn't matter what type of law you practice, it'll get to you after a while. So you need to love what you do. So that's a focus, I think. Law school necessarily, you'll take all of these classes. In Southwestern, for me, the experience was great because I was prepped for the bar. They made sure I was ready for the bar. And that's very important. As far as then what you're going to do in your career, that's you. That's you. And you have to make sure that you love it. That's absolutely one advice, some kind of advice that I would give people is that you need to love what you're going to do, regardless of the area of law, because then it makes it fun every day to wake up and say, hey, I'm going to go to work. If you're all still young or starting this career, and it's something that I always want you to remember, that if you love doing it, and for me, the passion of being a criminal defense attorney was something definitely that I wanted to do. Law school itself, everyone's already mentioned it, so I won't say that again. As far as make your connections, meet your people, the person that you sit in class with, you'll end up at some point in the future maybe being a colleague or passing paths again. So that's important. The opportunities you get from Southwestern as far as any internships, take them. Take advantage of whatever Southwestern offers because it's incredible and it will open doors for you. And then opportunities like this, you get to come back and say, hey, here are some people that I remember and I can lean on that people. It is a family, not just for networking, but to have that support from all of the people that you see here today. Maybe one of you, and don't say you won't, because clearly there are those of us who are here today as the speaker. So you might be one of those speakers one day. Breakout room when it comes out. If criminal law and criminal defense is something that you want to do, absolutely join my group and I can try to give you some of my experience and talk to you about it. But it doesn't matter, meaning get in there, do law school, excel, have fun with it. Sure, it's hard, but it's exciting and it should be exciting for you. You should be in school taking advantage of the professors that you have there and the mentors that you have there because it's something you want to do. If you get up for it in that sense, you'll enjoy your career absolutely more. So I'll be in the breakout later. Talk to any of you that want to chat. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melody Sadian. I will try to keep it short. I know that we're a little over time, but first I wanted to thank Vice Dean Anahid Garakanian for having me here as a panelist for the second year. It really is a privilege to be sitting with all of you, and I hope to meet some of you in the breakout room. I am an attorney at Panis Shea Ravaputi. I've been practicing for nearly 9 years, and our firm handles catastrophic personal injury cases. So we represent those who have been injured. And we also handle certain mass tort cases, which is what I also do, specifically utility caused wildfires, those whose homes and livelihood and businesses have been destroyed by fires that were started by Southern California Edison and other utilities involving, Maui fire, for example, which is what I'm also handling. Um, I have so much to say, but I will try to keep it very short and not repeat what my other colleagues and panelists have said so far. But the biggest thing I will have to say is networking. I participated and taking advantage, I would say, of the clerkships, externships, internships. I participated in Southwestern's OCI on-campus interviews. And I first started out working as a result of that, worked at Woodsmith, Henning and Berman, which I realized that Armand worked there as well. And it was a great experience for me. I learned a lot. It's an insurance defense firm. So, I was practicing really on the other side of what I do now. I learned a lot, but for me, it wasn't as rewarding. And so eventually I moved to the plaintiff side, and I won't go into details about how I was able to get the position that I have now, but it all came down to networking. Some of the jobs that you're really looking for are not necessarily posted on Indeed. It's really based on the people that you know, the networking. A lot of firms, when they're looking for, great talent, they're looking within their network. So it's very important that even when you start out in law school, you go out there and you network, and not only with other attorneys, but your fellow classmates as well. And I will tell you that was not easy for me when I was younger. I wish I took advantage of it, because I truly am an introvert, and it took a lot to practice and get myself out there. And sometimes it felt awkward, but I promise you it will get better over time. And you meet, and it's not just for getting a job. You meet people, you learn from people. I think it's very important. As I mentioned earlier, definitely externships. I did a judicial externship. It was at Southwestern. It was amazing. I learned a lot. I was also part of Southwestern's trial advocacy honors program. You don't have to have it figured out in terms of what field you want to practice while you're in law school. I think it's totally okay to graduate, and maybe the first couple of years you are kind of bouncing around figuring out what you want to do. But I think for me, and I was a perfect example, I knew that I wanted to do civil litigation, so Southwestern's Child Advocacy Honors Program was very important to me, and I was very lucky to be a part of the program. But I didn't know whether I wanted to do defense or plaintiff, and so even I kind of started out figuring out where I wanted to land. Civil litigation is definitely complex. It keeps you on your toes. You're always learning something new. You're kind of bound by the court's calendar, and a lot of the times, most cases don't go to trial, but you're always preparing like it is going to go to trial, because you never know. And a lot of those times, our cases settle successfully because we've prepared to take them to trial. So it's high pressure, high stakes, long hours, but I find it to be very rewarding. You are meeting people from all different backgrounds, and they've been through something terrible. And it's been incredibly rewarding to me to help clients get the recovery that they deserve and help put pieces of their lives back together after a tragedy. So I think that's something that I never get used to. I'm always meeting clients and listening to their stories, and it's something that affects me greatly, and it's a motivator for me to help them every day. I will also tell you, I have been privileged to work throughout my career with some of the most talented attorneys, and I'm a perfect example. You don't need to go. First off, I love Southwestern. I thank them immensely for the skills that I've learned. And it's a perfect example of you don't necessarily need to be the top of your class or to go to an Ivy League school. You need dedication, perseverance, grit in our profession, a lot of networking, as I mentioned. And I think that, what I've seen is that partners and senior attorneys want to be able to trust that you're reliable, you put in the time, you ask questions, you come up with solutions, and you get the work done. And those are skills that I built at Southwestern. Legal writing, learning to spot legal issues, analyzing, as Alex had mentioned, is very important, and coming up with, as he mentioned, sensical solutions are very important. And again, a lot of that I learned at Southwestern, and also taking advantage of the on-campus interviews and the clerkships and the externships that I did while I was there. So it is an incredible law school, and I owe a lot of my success to the skills that I built there and the opportunities that they gave me. So hopefully I didn't go for too long, and I hope to meet some of you in our breakout room soon.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists, whether you want to unmute or do an electronic applause. I really appreciate everything that we heard from our panelists in terms of just information about how they've made their careers, but also the invaluable guidance. And I hope what you've taken away is how rich the JD degree can be in terms of its versatility, everything you can do with it, but that there are these common, just foundational threads that you heard about with respect to finding your North Star, with respect to finding your passion, identifying, what are your values, and based on those values, what is it that interests you? And I want to share with you the learning outcomes that Southwestern has for our JD graduates. Actually, the preamble says Southwestern Law School is committed to helping students become reflective and self-fulfilled professionals who are able to integrate legal professionalism, ethics, values, doctrine, theory, and skills to become outstanding professionals in a broad variety of settings. That is exactly what we did here. And you might have been surprised at the level of emphasis with respect to your happiness matters, your self-fulfillment matters. And that's something that we truly emphasize. And I'm putting in the chat the link to the learning outcomes for our JD students.